Greetings, I'm Dr. Sean Reed. Let me adjust my camera there. I'm Dr. Sean Reed, and I'm the author of The Dating Toolbox. Male-female relationships are in the worst state of affairs in human history. We can go back 30,000 years to when we were living in caves, and I argue that things were better then than they are now. Let's take modern technology, for example. 90% of all women on modern dating sites are only interested in 10% of the men. Okay, so getting that first date for a guy today is very hard. It's yeah, I think you have better luck stepping into the cage with a UFC champion than you do getting dates. Okay, so making it through the first 3 dates is even harder. Let's take a look at marriage. Okay, 50% of all marriages fail. Interestingly, 70% of the time, it is the woman filing for divorce, okay? And even if we look at marriages that work, 74% of those, one study has shown that in 74% of those, the man is unhappy, okay? So what can we do about this state of affairs? Well, what has happened is a lot of men have just said, hey, I'm giving up on dating altogether. And I argue that that is not the way to go. There is hope. 26 years ago, I was in graduate school and I went through a horrible divorce. By the time I finished my PhD, I wanted a family. I wanted to get married and I wanted to start a family. So I immersed myself in the academic literature and I found that most of it was terrible. I'll explain why in a moment. But most academic literature coming from the field of psychology focuses upon communication. And I found that that's not the case. The most important thing in a relationship is whether or not a woman loves the man. That's the number one most important thing. So what happened is I found that most of the relationship advice was terrible. So what I did is I immersed myself in the field of anthropological biology, cultural anthropology, neurobiology. And what I found is that the male and the female brains are fundamentally different. Some scholars have found there are 7 differences. For our purposes, I'm going to keep it simple. There are just 2 basic differences, okay? One brain is dominated by gray matter. The other brain is dominated by white matter. And to put it more simply, men are problem solution oriented, while women are process oriented. And this is an evolutionary adaptation that took 190,000 years to develop. Humans really have not changed that much in recent history. We can digest grains and milk, but pretty much we are the same humans that we were back when we lived in the caves. So this evolutionary development of brain differences is critical if we want to understand relationships. If you don't understand how the female brain works, your relationships are doomed to an unending cycle of frustration and despair. However, if we can understand how the female brain works, now we can start to understand how women fall in love and how to keep them in love, okay? And traditional academic literature can't do that. Academic literature focuses on communication. They don't focus on love. The assumption, and this is kind of a politically driven decision, the assumption in most academic literature is that male and female brains are the same, right? Brains can't be different because that might mean that men are better than women, and actually that's not what I found. I found that women are just as smart as men, and in some ways better designed for the modern world. So I argue that brains are different. It doesn't mean one's better than the other. It just means simply that they're different, and unless you understand this difference, you're not going to be able to successfully date, and you're not going to be able to get a woman to love you and stay and love you. That's ultimately our goal. So I developed a system based on differences in the brain. Like I said, I immersed myself in a lot of academic disciplines, but I also became involved in the seduction community. And I know the bad seduction community, they just want to try and sleep with women. Well, my goal was very different. I wanted to get a woman to fall in love with me, and I wanted, in my case, to marry them. Some of you may not want them to get married, but I think it's fair to say that all of you would like a loving, committed relationship with a high quality, with a beautiful, high quality women. I think it's fair to say that most of us would like that. A lot of guys say, "Oh no, I don't want that," but I think really that you do. And in my case, my system resulted in me dating lots of women. You're going to have to date lots of women, right? We do so honestly. I can have you dating up to 3 women a week, and then what happens is slowly over time you sift through those women until you find the best one. And I married that one, and I've been happily married with a wonderful family for 18 years. And I can teach you to do the same. That's what my book, The Toolbox, and my system is all about.